This episode of the Flush Podcast is brought to you by Walton's, Aluma Trailers, Sound Gear, Onyx Hunt, and by Nutrisource Pet Foods. My guest today is Andy Doak from Navhda. Navhda stands for North American Versatile Hunting Dog Association. Andy and I will get into the organization's history, their mission today, chapter opportunities and events around the country, and I'm pretty sure we'll dig into some bird hunting in his neck of the woods. That's in the far northeast corner of America. Welcome to another episode of the Flush Podcast. I'm Travis Frank. I'm your host, as always. Brandon Morton, once again, brings us this production. Brandon, I appreciate all of your hard work. I must say, I've got a little bit of extra pep in my step today. I just got off a call with a friend of mine, Mike Jensen, that works for the state of North Dakota, and he had a lot of good news for us bird hunters. Let's just say the drought up there is almost completely gone, except for a few small areas. I wrote down a couple of numbers that jumped out to me. He said that the state's overall water index is currently up 660% from last year. It's a pretty big number. But of course, obviously last year was a drought. The main takeaway is that he's excited about what he's seeing. Places in the state that typically are dry this time of the year are lush. They're green. It's just looking ideal. The heavy rains have not hurt nesting conditions this spring, so he feels like we could have a banner hunting season up there, which obviously a lot of our listeners and myself travel to North Dakota every year. Another really cool number that I wrote down was that the ducks overall, they kind of have like a long-term average. They're up 16% higher than last year, and that's now 38% above their long-term average. So if you like to shoot ducks in the morning and then jump into the field and chase pheasants, sharp-tailed grouse, and huns like I do, then you may just want to put North Dakota back on your list if you didn't make it there last year. And if you did make it there last year, you might start getting excited like I am. Anyway, they're going to have their spring counts available here very soon in the next couple of weeks. And I will have, I believe, somebody from North Dakota Game and Fish on to join us and kind of break down what they're seeing around the state just to kind of get an idea. And then again, like always, as we lead into hunting seasons, we'll travel the country and we'll talk about what we're seeing, what people are seeing in their neck of the woods to kind of get an idea about how bird numbers are shaping up heading into the season. So it's middle of the June and I'm not normally thinking about hunting right now. Well, I'm always thinking about hunting actually, but I'm a little extra excited today, if you can't tell, Brandon. I've got a little more pep in my step, like I mentioned.
I was just going to say, I'm so happy for you.
Yeah. And as long as we're housekeeping items, as long as we're rambling off the top of the show here, next week we're going to have, I don't know what we call it, but we're bringing the band back together. Everyone's coming in. Ron Shera, Bill Shirk, Scott Franzen, we're all going to be recording the show next week because we've made it a tradition. At the start of the new TV season of episodes, we like to get together and have a little roundtable discussion, talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, what we're excited for, what we're dreading going into this coming year. And like last year, we want to consider this as an opportunity for you, the listeners, to ask questions to any of us. I believe we're going to post a couple of maybe a video or two next week on our social channels, inviting you to submit comments or questions that we will talk about next week on the show, because a new season of The Flush starts airing the last week of June on the Outdoor Channel. And we're going to run, as always, all the way through the end of the year through December. So this will be kind of our kickoff. We're celebrating. We've done a lot of work. Our team behind the scenes is always working, and we've been high-fiving some incredible shows. I'm excited to hit the air. So it's a little mini celebration for us. And right after we get done with that celebration, we're having our planning meeting for next year's episodes, which means we're going to be throwing out ideas. Where do we want to go? Who do we want to hunt with? And that's your invitation to send us your invites, your ideas. If you have an idea of a place that you think would be a great destination, adventure, inspire other hunters somehow, some way to get out into the field, then we want to hear from you. We may join you in the field this season, the woods, the field, wherever it is that you chase upland birds. We want to share your stories. So wherever you have found us in the past, social media wise, or send me a message or go to theflush.tv, which is our website. There's contact forms everywhere. Direct message us. Send us what you're thinking about, invites, whatever it might be, questions. We'll take them all. We'll talk about them. We'll maybe see you out in the field and film a TV show with you. So how's that, Brandon?
That's fantastic. Was the rumor correct that we're recording from a boat, or was that scrapped? Was that idea? I'm not sure. That's the last I heard. I don't know.
Yeah, Scott Franzen got a new boat. Good for him. And he's like, let's do it from my boat. Let's record the show from the boat. I'm like, no, we're not recording from the boat. You're going to have a wind noise. And plus, when I put a line in the water, the fish can't help but bite. So I'll be too distracted. It won't make for good podcasting.
It should be an awesome show. I look forward to it, and getting questions in is really the best way for us to guide future shows. So it's awesome.
I agree. Yeah, we want to hear from everyone that listens, that has ideas, questions, comments, whatever it might be about how bad we are at shooting and how poor the dogs did, or whatever it might be, or maybe it was a good one. I don't know. Maybe we did well once, Brandon. We have some good feedback. Yeah. No, I would say 96% of our comments and feedback are positive. So we appreciate that.
Yes.
We like that. We'll keep it that way. All right. Andy Doak is our guest today. I'm not going to waste any more of his time. Andy, welcome to the show. We really appreciate you taking the time today. I know you had to maneuver some things in your schedule, so it means a heck of a lot to us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. I'm really glad to be here. I know anytime we get to talk about dogs and Navhda and organizations we're passionate about, it's always a good thing.
Yeah. So you live in Maine, is that correct?
I do.
What part of the state?
I grew up, and I actually live still in I guess you'd call the central part of the state, just to the east of the capital.
Gotcha. And rumor has it, well, it's not rumor because you told me this, but you hunt in some pretty exceptional ruff grouse habitats up there in that part of the country.
We do. I mean, Maine is well known for ruff grouse and woodcock. Obviously, those are our two main upland birds. I say Maine, the majority of people hunt those birds in the Northeast, and we certainly have many areas, different pockets, different parts of the states, those type of birds very well, particularly in the northwestern part of the state. That's where I spend most of my time chasing birds around with our dogs. So it's I feel pretty blessed, and I know a lot of the people that I know live in this state, and even a lot of people that I know live out of state that I'm friends with through Navhda. Usually they try and make a trip to Maine and once in a lifetime to chase ruff grouse and woodcock around.
So I've been very fortunate. I've hunted ruffed grouse and woodcock in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ontario. I consider this part, upper Midwest, this region, excellent ruffed grouse and woodcock hunting. But I've not hunted in the Northeast. And that is something that is still on my list because I don't know. I love to experience the cultures and hunting all over the country. And we like to share that on our shows, obviously. But have you hunted in the Midwest?
I have. I've actually, with a few of my Navhda friends, we took a trip to Nebraska one time. The sandhills, chasing sharp tails out there. And, I've trained with some folks in the Midwest, particularly in Wisconsin area, Minnesota, that sort of thing. I've been to Navhda events, of course. We have a big event in Iowa. Usually every other year are one of our flagship events, the Invitational. So, out there, it's awe-inspiring when I go out there and see just open plains, because that's not what we have in the Northeast. Nothing like that.
So have you hunted ruffed grouse, though, in our forests?
Not in yours. I have. I used to live in Vermont. There was a short time where I lived in Vermont, and same type of habitat. Same thing for New Hampshire. I've hunted rough grouse in New Hampshire and Vermont, but nothing. Not chasing grouse and woodcock in your neck of the woods.
Gotcha. So I think what I'm trying to get at is I don't have any way to tell people, yes, it's better in Maine than it is over here, or we really have it good over here, because I can't compare it, and I guess you can't either. But what is a normal grouse and woodcock hunt play out for you when you step into the woods with your dogs?
So for usually I'm with my wife. She has two dogs too as well, two poodle pointers, and either my father or her, my father-in-law, or other Navhda members that might be along with us. Um, the terrain that we look for, it's probably very similar to you. We look for those early successional habitat type cuts. Those areas of land that have been harvested of their timber in a variety of different ways. I'm sure grouse and woodcock are very they're adaptable to different habitat, but they have the ability to eat a variety of different things. And what they really love is, of course, those areas that are always continuously harvested. So there's various different levels of tree growth. Hardwoods, even softwoods, those hardwood, softwood lines that meet up. So we're typically in an area of Maine. We'll look for those areas that have that habitat. And there's pockets of that all around the state, but the prime area is for us that we're fortunate to have some property in the northwestern part of the state. And that whole area is well known for being heavily commercially forested on set schedules and rotations, and there's always that type of habitat. So that first and foremost, we're looking for that, right? We're looking for where if you're gonna hunt birds, you're gonna try and find where areas that are going to hold birds. And typically if you're in those areas, you're also myself. I really love hunting woodcock as well too. So we're gonna dip into some woodcock covers that we know too as well. But we're headed out with the dogs, maybe going to a location. We might hunt a cover. If we don't find anything, maybe in an hour to an hour, or we get a couple flushes here and there, we might jump back in the truck, go to a different spot. And hopefully the next spot is, that honey hole that you always look for. So it's, we plan our trips. We'd like to hopefully spend, a week or two, particularly in October. October is really the prime time, particularly late October. Usually I'm a big duck hunter as well too. And I usually try and spend actually the first week in October duck hunting, and then first or second week, and then I switch over to grouse hunting in the third or fourth week of October. So yeah, that's kind of a snapshot. But we're always looking for that habitat. That's where you're going to find birds.
Well, I mean, it's a deal. Exactly what we do here in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan. I mean, we're always promoting logging practices and healthy forests, and that the different age groups of trees. And it sounds the same. When you go into the woods, what is a great day for you? What's a terrible day? And I'm just curious, I'm looking at bird numbers here, like what do you experience when you go out there?
So a rough day, I'll describe a rough day, which of course I've had many of those, right? Everybody has.
We all have. Yep.
Yeah. So a rough day, probably going to be one of those like overcast, rainy days. If you have time off, of course, during hunting season, it's precious. So you're probably still going to go out. You might be driving to your spots and maybe you see some birds on the road. Maybe you don't. Though, if it's a real kind of stormy day, the birds are probably going to hunker down for cover. You're just probably not going to see many birds on those days. And that's very typical. A good day would be that sort of bluebird day. The weather's not too hot, probably in that 55 to 65 degree weather, that autumn time period. Probably by the third week of October up in Maine, most of the leaves have come down. So that also gives you a benefit, whether you're in the woods to actually get shooting opportunities, or I should say better shooter opportunities in maybe the early part of the month.
Uh-huh.
And we might head out, early morning, hunt for a few hours. A good average day, as far as I would say the number of contacts that I typically see for rough grouse is probably like maybe 7 to 12 birds in a day. Of course, we're not maybe harvesting all those, depending on what shooting opportunities are. That's about average for us, to get that many contacts. A really good day, I've personally had days where I've moved and seen up to 50 or 60 rough grouse in a day pretty
That's
easily.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exceptional hunting. Yeah. I would say it sounds similar to what we have here. Do you consider your bird numbers up there to be stable? Are you concerned at all about rough grouse numbers in that part of the country?
I would say concerned in different areas of Maine. Not so much in that northwestern part because again, the habitat is just there. The organizations and the companies that own that property, they're investment forest companies, and they're always cutting that property so that habitat is always created. Um, but there also are many people that do projects on their property. Myself, I'm fortunate to own some property with my father, and we've had projects that the Rough Grouse Society has advised us on how to cut our property to make it so that it's more attractive for rough grouse, and we've seen that pay off. We've seen that directly pay off as a benefit to those organizations that are really habitat oriented, coming in and helping us out. But in general, Maine is known for having really good numbers. I wouldn't say that there's a concern as, say, some of the more states that are south of Maine,
Sure.
in the Northeast. Certainly, we hear states that just, you hear all these stories about, guys that were hunting grouse in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and now in their states, and now they don't see them anymore at all.
Yeah,
I
Pennsylvania comes to mind a lot as
Mhm.
far as, and I know that's not extreme northeast, but that's east. And I feel like I hear from a lot of Pennsylvania bird hunters that say, "Boy, I saw like a 2 or 3 or 5 this year or something like that." And it's such a shame that it's not what it once was.
Absolutely.
Well, let's get into the meat and potatoes here.
Mhm.
We could talk birds all day, but let's talk dogs because that's really what I wanted to have you on to discuss. What is your role with Navhda, and how long have you been involved with that organization?
Sure. My role is I serve as the director of promotions for NAVHDA. So, again, as you mentioned, NAVHDA stands for North American Versatile Hunting Dog Association. I've been involved, actually active in the organization, right around the time where I got my first dog for about almost 15 years now. I actually knew about the organization growing up as a kid since I was probably 7 or 8 years old. I would see demonstrations at local sportsman shows. Local NAVHDA chapters would be putting on a demonstration. I knew about the organization since I was very, very young, and it always interested me to get involved. And then when I kind of settled down in my early 20s, that's when I was able to get my own dog, and I knew that the organization I want to be involved with was NAVHDA. So that's kind of where my involvement. What I do with NAVHDA is I'm fortunate to interact on a variety of with our members, with our local chapters. I also manage all our sponsor and conservation partner agreements, the companies that support NAVHDA in a variety of different ways. So it's kind of a overall role to help the organization grow, look for more people that are going to support us. And we certainly have done that as far as growth goes, particularly in the last 10 years, for sure.
Where's the home base for Navhda?
It's actually in Illinois.
Okay.
So yeah, Arlington Heights. So we have an office there, a full office staff of a number of people that do a variety of things for us administratively. By and large, NAVHDA is made up of volunteers, and I'm one of those as well. I'm not a paid individual from NAVHDA. So I serve the organization in volunteer capacity like the large majority of our members do.
I'm always amazed when people give their time like you're doing right now and that you've done for as long as you have, but I ask sometimes, why do you do it?
Mm-hmm. That's sometimes we ask. Sometimes we always ask ourselves
sure.
that.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny, if I'm at a NAVHDA event, everybody at some point, somebody look around like, man, why are we doing this? It's always the same answer. It's always the same answer. People come into this organization. They're looking for help with a hunting dog. They're hunting birds, hunting waterfowl is something that interests them. They're looking for support where they can get that support. And what they find is NAVHDA chapters, NAVHDA people in general share that same passion, and they want others to succeed as well. So the culture that's within NAVHDA is a very, if you want to call it mentoring, if you want to call it a family environment, if you want to call it, just people that want to see friendships develop and hunting opportunities develop with your friends. It's all of the above, right? It's all of those good things that when you're thinking about stepping into the world of getting a hunting dog that you would hope that you experience. And NAVHDA offers that to anybody that's willing to take that and absorb that information. So when you have that volunteer spirit, that helping spirit, that just fosters people to want to see the organization succeed. There's just been some really passionate people historically over the years. The people that started NAVHDA in 1969, and have you continued on that just for so many years now.
Who originally started it? Do you know?
Yeah, a guy named Bodo Winterheld, and he was a German immigrant who actually immigrated to Canada first. That's kind of Canada and the U.S. were really kind of where NAVHDA all started. And again, 1969, a group of people got together and said, "Hey, let's create an organization in North America that can provide an opportunity for people to get their dogs evaluated on how good or bad the dog is as a hunting companion." So that's kind of the basis of why the organization started. A lot of the methods that came in and the evaluation of dogs were designed, of course, have a heavily German influence, European influence of what some of the things that we look for when a dog runs a NAVHDA test. So that's the bulk of it.
Gotcha. There's a lot of ways I can go with this, but let's keep getting into some of the nuts and bolts about the organization. So you've got, I want to say 90 plus chapters. Do you know how many chapters do you have around the country?
Yeah, we do. That's correct. We actually have 96. Okay. We have chapters in 39 different states in the U.S. and 6 Canadian provinces. Wow. So we are all over the place. I would love to see NAVHDA in every Canadian province and 50 states, including Hawaii. We don't have a chapter in Hawaii, but we have 2 chapters in Alaska, though. So that's great. We have a very active membership in Alaska, and there's a lot of challenges up there, even getting birds that those guys have, and they do an exceptional job. But yeah, we're spread out very diversely. If you look at how we are, I mean, we're broken up. The majority of the chapters being in the northeast. Every geographical area, Northeast, Midwest, and the West, you can find a NAVHDA chapter that's probably close by.
Now, what is the role of each chapter? I think most people could probably relate it similar to Pheasants Forever. Obviously we partner with them and work with them a lot. Quail Forever. There's chapters around the country that are made up of individual volunteers. But how does NAVHDA chapters around the country run? How do they run them?
Sure. So that's kind of answered in 2 ways. So NAVHDA as an organization is really structured at 2 levels. You have NAVHDA International, of course, which is the parent organization, and then all the chapters fall under NAVHDA International as part of International. What the chapters really do for the organization and any member is they're the core group, the people that are really providing that hands-on, boots on the ground, training opportunities and testing opportunities for members of Navhda. So they're the ones, the chapters themselves are usually hosting opportunities for training for individuals that are members of their chapter or prospective members. And also one of the core things that they do is the chapters are the ones that actually host our dog evaluation tests. I say test, but if you use the term hunt test,
Yep.
People are very familiar with that term. That's really essentially, if you wanted to break it down, that's what the chapters actually functionally do. In addition to all that, there's also that camaraderie that is built at the local chapter level, those people supporting each other. That's where the core friendships are all made, right? Chapter levels. I belong, of course, to a local Navhda chapter and heavily involved in, and really most all members are. They have their home base at their local chapters, and that's where the nuts and bolts actually takes place of the organization. And Navhda International, of course, oversees really a lot of the administrative side of things, memberships, some of our special programs. We oversee kind of everything and develop the structure for the whole organization to operate under.
Roughly how many members do you have nationwide or worldwide?
So we've now peaked just recently over 11,000 members. That includes members in the U.S. and Canada total.
Okay. Gotcha. Why do you think you say peak? Why is it that you're peaking? I mean, is it still, is it a steady trajectory that you're growing?
Well, I say peaked. I mean, the correct word is we've exceeded 11,000, and we actually, interestingly enough, Navhda has been growing incredibly strong, particularly in the last 10 to 12 years. Our growth rate on average, we grow the organization by just under 10% every year. Okay. We've been consistently doing that for the last 10 years, meaning our membership numbers increase by about 10%, just under 10% every year. We've doubled in size since about 2010. So we've seen a huge surge in people just wanting to be involved in Navhda and own hunting dogs and enjoy themselves.
Aluma Trailers, they've got you covered. Their trailers are built by a hardworking team in Bancroft, Iowa. They have models for nearly any and every hauling need, from ATV and UTV trailers to utility, snowmobile, motorcycle, car trailers, and even fully enclosed trailers like mine. Trust me when I say Aluma Trailers tow gear like a dream, and they are 100% maintenance free. Plus, they come with an industry-best 5-year warranty. Visit alumakln.com to find a trailer that fits your needs. For everything that gets you outdoors, Aluma Trailers will help you get there. Nutrisource Pet Foods just launched a new product that can give our active hunting dogs a big boost when they need it most. It's called Kombucha. Nutrisource Kombucha, inspired, of course, by kombucha, is a savory, meaty bone broth topper that's packed with activated postbiotics from a fermentation product that thrives in the gut to promote a healthy gut ecosystem for digestion support. That's a mouthful. But what it means for us bird dog owners is that we now have a healthy topper to pour over our dog's food if they're ever stressed or won't eat while on a long hunting trip. Kombucha is offered in 3 flavors: turkey, beef, and chicken, and comes in a 12-ounce pouch. Nutrisource high-performance dog foods provide exceptional, healthy nutrition for active dogs of every breed, just like my dog Daisy. Now they have a topper that gives our 4-legged hunters another edge when they need it the most. Check out their full lineup of dog foods at NutrisourcePetFoods.com.
Hey, hunters and shooters, whether you're in the field, at the range, or on the factory floor, hearing is the key to your success and safety, and you need to protect it. The all-new Phantom from Sound Gear is here to help. Phantom delivers benefits no other product can. Dynamic digital noise protection for your ears. Seamless compression automatically suppresses noises at dangerous levels. Stream calls, music, or other audio wirelessly from your phone. One overnight charge keeps you powered all day long. And Phantom is custom molded to your ear and is sweat and waterproof, so it's comfortable all day. Sound Gear is American-owned and operated and a proud sponsor of Pheasants Forever. Go to soundgear.com and see how Phantom or any of the other Soundgear products can change your life by protecting your hearing. That's soundgear.com.
Do you think, and I might be wrong here, but I have seen what I think is a pretty steady rise in the different breed of dogs that I see in the field that I hunt with. A lot of German dogs, just a variety of them. And is that the rise in popularity of these breeds? Is that bringing people to your organization, or are you bringing, I guess, what kind of dog breeds do you have to be a part of your organization?
Yeah. So, the short answer to your question is yes, absolutely. Navhda recognizes 31 different what we call versatile breeds, right? That point upland game on land and also hunt waterfowl, are capable of hunting waterfowl.
Do they have to point?
During our test opportunities, yes, absolutely. That's
Okay.
that. In order for the dog to be, scored at a higher level, that pointing is something that we look at very strongly in our testing system for sure.
Gotcha. So yeah, keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So on that topic of pointing, all the breeds that we recognize are pointing breeds. We're not an organization that recognizes non-pointing breeds, and that's really just the way that organization has was started and has continued on for the last 50 plus years. But on your question about seeing more breeds involved, whether you go to a hunt test, just in the time that I've been involved, and it's typically if you showed up at a Navhda test or a Navhda clinic, maybe you'd see 3 to 5 different breeds of dogs. The most common, the German short hair, the German wire hair, the Griffon has become extremely more popular. There's a number of breeds that kind of were always that staple for versatile hunting dogs. Now, if you go to a Navhda test, I remember there was a test that I heard about just the other weekend where, typically at our younger stage, you can test up to 10 dogs per day in our entry level test. And there was a test recently where there were literally 10 different breeds of dogs. Wow. And that's incredible, right? Of the 31 breeds, there's a third of them represented on one day. And it's crazy, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and I'd like to think that Navhda has been a very instrumental part of the growth of versatile hunting dog breeds, particular pointing breeds, obviously, because our core mission, if you look at what our core mission is, it's to foster the growth and the development of the versatile breeds in North America. So certainly there's breeds that, have smaller numbers, but when you're involved in an organization like Navhda, it just promotes those breeds to do well. It promotes a responsible breeding from those breeders that own those dogs, and you naturally see that growth. There's been a couple breeds in recent years that have really, really become popular is not the right word, but they've been noticed as performing well.
What are they?
So one of those breeds that's on the higher end of more dogs that are tested now is the poodle pointer. That is another breed that is actually a foundation breed for the German wire hair. My wife owns 2 poodle pointers. Ironically, I also own an English setter, which is a far less common breed to be tested in Navhda. There's only about 20 English setters on average that are tested in the Navhda system per year. And
now,
Navhda,
why is that?
Well, certainly there are breeds that people don't think of as I should say that are traditionally looked at as have their specialties, right? I mean, when you think about like an English pointer as a dog, that's a specialty type of dog, right? If maybe look at an English setter as a specialty type of dog, even some people put the retriever breeds, right? That's a specialty because they're focused on retrieving. Navhda is an interesting organization because we recognize that those breeds can also have the ability to do water work, right? So, sure, my English setter, I've tested her all the way up, right through some of the higher levels and been very successful with her. And I'm kind of I guess you could call me a nut about that stuff, because I like it when, I like seeing something that's different. I like seeing something that isn't as common as, some of the other breeds you always think about. And I've really enjoyed training my English setter through the Navhda system, because it's kind of like one of those deals where you're like, wait a minute, I mean, I still get questions like, does the dog retrieve ducks? And I'm thinking, how would she get this high of, a test score, which is part of the test, right? If she can't do this task, right? It's about being able to teach a dog, regardless of the breed, if they have those instincts, that they can be successful on land and water. At the same time, I also own a German Shorthair, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pheasants Forever, just had the bird dog campaign where to raise money to support habitat. And of course, the German Shorthair has been the most popular breed for the last few years now.
I was going to say, they keep taking it year after year. They keep taking it.
I don't think that's going to be a long shot for them to be knocked off the podium. And certainly there are more there are still many German Shorthairs that are registered and bred and tested in the Navhda system. So, but again, that diversity, my wife and I, we own three of the 31 different breeds. I enjoy just seeing different breeds be successful, and I think that's what Navhda is all about, seeing people be successful with their dog.
So to become a member or to have your dogs tested in there, what kind of information do people need to provide about their dogs before you can get in?
Sure. So first and foremost, if you want to run in a Navhda test, the dog would need to be registered, with Navhda. There's a process to do that. We have a form for, it has to be obviously one of our accepted breeds and can be registered within Navhda. Once the dog's registered with Navhda, the local chapters are the ones that are actually hosting the test. So an individual would need to seek out a local chapter, figure out if they have an opening in a test, fill out a standard test entry form. They're going to include their dog's registration number, themselves, who the handler is. Sometimes the handler is different than the owner, but very commonly the large percent of the handlers are also the owners of their dogs in Navhda. And that's one thing about Navhda is people want to train their own dogs. They want to have that own experience and be the one that's that hunting companion with their dog. So many times over, it's typically the handler is also the owner. And if there's a spot open in a test for that particular level that you're looking to test your dog, that will go through the local chapter and get approved, and then you're entered in the test.
How what kind of information does somebody get about their dog that can be helpful or beneficial to run a test? Maybe somebody says, you know what, I don't need a scorecard for my dog. I love hunting with my dog, and she does great in the field, or he does excellent in the woods, and that's all I need. So I'm not really going to take it another step. But there's got to be benefits that you get by bringing your dog out and working through some of these tests, right?
Yeah, so now we're getting into really the real meat and potatoes of why Navhda, in my opinion, has become a successful organization, and the growth of those breeds we talked about. And it's because at every level of Navhda tests, which is 4 different levels, when your dog is tested, it'll be scored on different criteria, which of course is designed to mimic different hunting scenarios, field work, tracking work in some cases, water work, water retrieving work, a whole variety of different things that is looked at when a Navhda judges, plural, look at your dog and are evaluating it for the day. At the end of the day, of course, you'll get a score and a prize level. And it's interesting because what happens with that data is it goes back to our office. Our office records that data in a very extensive database that we've actually have had since 1969. So we have every record of every dog that's been tested in Navhda over the years. And what that does it allows good information when breeders are trying to look for their next sire and dame to match up to be successful hunting dogs. So they'll look for those criteria. You know, was the dog strong in pointing? Was it strong in its field search? Did it have any issues? You know, at the steady by the blind sequence, which is a retrieve a duck in water. There's all these criteria that breeders can look at, and puppy buyers can look at that information too. That's all linked to every single dog's pedigree as well too, so you can see where that dog came from. In a nutshell, it's the most comprehensive database, both as far as the registry, meaning, you know, our pedigrees and where the dogs came from, also the testing information, how that dog performed as a hunting dog. It's the most extensive registration that exists for versatile hunting dogs.
Fascinating. What kind of information would a potential puppy buyer learn about by going and looking at that database?
So if you're brand new to the organization, certainly a little guidance helps, right? If I'm going to get on the Navhda website and search for a particular dog and I look at his test scores, trying to connect with the potential breeder, the breeder can hopefully guide that person saying, okay, look, this sire and dame that we're matching up has been shown to have, a high score in pointing, a high score in its field search. Maybe a dog that if you're looking for a dog that's really strong in the water and you start looking at test scores, you know, maybe you try and look at that and say, this dog has shown over the years, or this breeding or this line has shown that it's not as strong in the water as I'd want. And that may be important to you as a duck hunter. The same goes for the field stuff. You know, if you see continuous patterns or trends that are either good or bad, that helps you as a puppy buyer to look for certain things. Of course, you know, the dogs that have done very well in Navhda over the years are typically most commonly looked at as, hey, I'd like to get a dog from a breeder that has shown that their dogs are trainable and they can be successful in Navhda tests. That's kind of the overarching goal.
Gotcha. And then once they might, like, let's just say a buddy of mine, we were out fishing 2 nights ago and he's got an old lab that she might have another year, maybe 2 years left. And like I said, are you ready to get another dog? And he said, yeah, I'm looking. And he goes, what do you think I should get? And I said, well, what do you want that dog to do? That's where you begin. What are you going to do with that dog? You know, and he actually said poodle pointer was a dog that he's been looking at. And I said, well, you got to figure out, what does that dog do well? And does it match up with where you're hunting and what you're going to hunt for? Things like that. So I feel like Navhda could be a great resource for him, right?
Absolutely. And that's kind of what we're all talking about here. You can look at the Navhda breeds. You can start doing your research on the Navhda website, looking for specific breeders. We actually have a comprehensive list of all the recognized breeders listed throughout Navhda. So if you're looking for maybe a breeder in your area, maybe you're looking for someone, maybe you don't want to travel out of state or not that far, you'd like to find a breeder that's closer to you, we have a comprehensive list of every single breeder that's registered in Navhda. That's another resource as well. And then at the same time, a lot of that, you know, core research is done, you know, picking up the phone and talking to that potential breeder, you know, about their dogs, what their personalities are like, you know, where have they hunted before, you know. And I think it's really important. The most successful dogs particularly for new owners or dogs that are looking for a certain breed are a dog that are a good fit for that person. You know, if you want that dog that ranges out 200, 300, 400 yards, there certainly are those dogs that do that, and specific breeds that probably do that more so. Like my setter, you know, she's a big ranging setter, and you know, but there's also setters that hunt a little closer. In the Northeast where we hunt, you know, my personal preference, you know, my dogs adjust to the woods and they sort of bring it in. But if you're out west, maybe you want that dog that's going to stretch its legs a little bit more. or you want a dog, again, if you're looking for a waterfowl dog, maybe you're going to search for a breeder that focuses on training and, more importantly, hunting their dogs in waterfowl situations.
Sure. Yeah. And I would even say, let's just say you're a pheasant hunter that hunts in Minnesota, for instance, and 95% of your pheasant flushes are coming out of cattails. That setter that likes to run 200, 300, 400 yards, I can speak from experience because that's what I have. Sometimes that's not the ideal dog for that hunt. It just isn't. My dog, she's a GSP setter mixed breed, and she wants to range. She wants to get out there and see what's over the next hill. And when the cover works out, I'm fine with that. But a lot of times in cattails, it's just not ideal. So she gets some birds up. We get birds in cattails, yes, but a lab was probably ideal for that hunting scenario. So then I tell people, if you're not going to go hunt in Western North Dakota or Montana or Nebraska to the sandhills, you might not want that big ranging pointing breed dog because the cover can be really challenging on a setter if you're stuck in cattails from opening day till the end of season and you don't leave them. So that's there's things to be said about really thinking ahead. What are your goals? Where are you going to hunt with that dog? And then, Andy, I think you kind of answered my question, but so my buddy, let's just say he says, all right, I'm going to go look at Navhda. I'm seeing great numbers from some of these poodle pointers in the system. Yes, I want to move forward. Then my question is, how do they know that they have a reputable breeder that they can connect with? And you guys, do you connect those dogs that are scored with the breeder that they came from?
In the testing system, absolutely. So you can go look at the score of that dog and also look up that dog's name and actually find that dog's pedigree. So on that pedigree, of course, we'll list the breeder of that dog. So if you say, man, this line of dogs looks really like something I'd look into, who's the breeder? So you can go find that, and it's all linked through that database that I was talking about. It gives you like basically a direct link to those breeders.
Cool. Very cool. You mentioned this right at the top, the Navhda Invitational. What is that and when is it?
So that's our flagship event. It's really the dogs that score a minimum of a prize one at the next lower level test, which is the utility test. The dogs that score prize one in utility are the dogs that will actually get invited to the invitational the next year. That's really where that term came from, the invitational, because it's an invite only test. The dogs that demonstrate that they're really proficient in certain areas. So we rotate geographically each year where that test will take place. It's typically in the Midwest, kind of the Western, a little bit further west of that. We have a location that's typically used. But this year, it's actually being hosted for the first time in New Mexico, which a lot of people are very excited about. Big open country out there. And that's coming up actually about the middle of September, that event. And that's typically when it's held every year. There'll be 400 or 500 people there at that event pretty easily, between people that are running dogs, judging dogs, and all the people that come as family friends to support each other will also typically attend that event. It's really kind of the big show, the big event, I guess you could say, of Navhda as a whole.
And will there be crowned a champion?
So the way that works is dogs that pass a test. That's a interesting difference, I think, that you could say from the field trial world. It's really a pass or fail at that level. So there'll be, if the dog meets certain criterias in that invitational test, it will pass. If it doesn't, it simply does not get a pass. If it passes, it will receive a title called Versatile Champion, and those the VC letters go right in the pedigree. for that dog, and it's recorded in that dog's record for life that it's considered a versatile champion.
Wow.
And a lot of people know how hard it is to even get to that test. A lot of people know that it's a hard test to train for and pass. It's one of those deals where I would encourage anybody who has a Navhda dog and is even thinking about it to give it a try, because it's a really special thing to experience that type of test with you and your dog. And what happens is you make friends even training for that test. You have to train with other people because one of the components of that test is to run a brace, two dogs in the field at the same time that have to honor each other's point and be respectful for each other's point. And you have to do that with multiple people when you train for that test. So it's a way to, again, the entire testing system in Navhda is designed for a mentoring, helpful type of atmosphere.
The Onyx Hunt app is one of the most valuable hunting tools that I take into the field every day. I talk about the Onyx Hunt app every week. That's simply because I use it on every hunt. Seriously, every hunt. Their app tells me everything that I need to know about the land that I want to hunt and the lands that we can all legally hunt on. If you've used it yourself, then you know that the Onyx app shows your location on planet Earth and clearly lays out the land boundaries. It also tells you information about the type of property you're on, like state-owned land, federal lands, and walk-in access properties. It's ideal for scouting before the hunt and during a hunt to help put together patterns. The app also has helpful features that show you the kind of crops that are in the fields, which obviously is a big deal for us upland bird hunters. These are just a few of the many tools Onyx Maps give you, and these maps can even be used in areas without cell coverage. From the palm of your hand, Onyx Maps always help you to know where you stand. Waltons, what can I say? They are the ultimate online store for everything you need to prepare and cook your meat. From wild game to pork and beef, they've got you covered. Their tagline is everything but the meat for a reason. A few weeks ago, they launched a new website to make your online shopping experience even easier. Waltons.com has over 5,000 items on their site in stock and ready to ship the same day. I went to their site the other day to purchase jerky seasoning for my son's big old gobbler. I found the seasoning I wanted, plus barbecue sauce, a new thermometer, steak seasonings, gloves, and a handful of other items. There's so much to choose from. It's just incredible. From grinders, mixers, stuffers, slicers, smokers, vacuum sealers, seasonings, and so much more. They also host their own podcast called Meatgistics and host live stream videos and chats to help you make the most of your cooking experience. Check them out at waltons.com. We talk all the time on this show about the importance of a good mentor. So it just seems you've mentioned this over and over again, which makes sense to me to say, if you're looking for a mentor and you have a hunting dog that you want to get involved with some of these things, finding the nearest Navhda chapter to you makes sense. So I'm assuming you just go on, type in Navhda, and then from there you'll find the list of different chapters and maybe the main contact for that chapter. Is that how that works?
Yep. You basically described it all. You basically go to navhda.org, our website. You can find a chapter locator map. You can click on the state that you're in or some state that you might be interested. A list will come up. List that Navhda chapter, who the main point of contacts are with their website. I mean, we want that information out there so people that are interested involved in Navhda can seek out that local chapter where you're going to find that mentor that might help you out. I mean, everybody, including myself, has critical people that they could look back and say, that guy mentored me and helped me, and he's the reason why I'm involved. And I have a number of people that I could look at that have helped me in various ways over the years, that have mentored me and still mentor me. Even though I'm involved at the chapter level and the international level, I still consider there's always something to learn. There's always something to learn about dogs. There's always something for me to learn about and understand about the organization, particularly as we grow. This is the hunting environment is changing ever so quickly nowadays, and we know that, and we as hunters need to adapt to that and keep doing what we enjoy.
Right. Have you ever judged an event?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I myself am a judge. There's about 150 judges within Navhda. During a Navhda test, you'll actually have 3 judges that judge your dog. And that's another real benefit to the Navhda system. Having 3 judges, always looking at your dog, always looking at the same criteria. Maybe one judge doesn't see something for some reason, or over this dog went over the knoll, and another judge was in an angle where it could see that dog, establish point. Whereas that's going to be a good thing for that dog in that case. So there's 3 judges at each test. I certainly, that's one of the things that I'm very active in, is actually participating in judging dogs as well.
I bet it'd be kind of fun, but is it you put pressure on yourself, or is it just more laid back for everybody?
Certainly. I mean, the way I look at it, and the way we are brought up as judges through the apprenticeship program, there's a very extensive apprenticeship program where you're learning kind of how to be the ins and outs of a judge. One of the things that is always a focus of a judge is to understand that these people put a lot of time, they put a lot of money in their dogs, they're very attached to that dog, and you want to give them the best opportunity and that you can, to give a fair evaluation to the dog as a whole. Be professional as possible during these events, and because our judges also are required to test dogs at different levels in certain time periods. So what that does is it focuses us to always understand where the handler is coming from. It's not, for some people, it's not easy to put their dog up for evaluation, particularly if it's your best pal and the day doesn't go well. And I've been in that situation as well, too. I mean, I think everybody has had those days where it just was an off day, during the test.
Can I stop you there? Can I ask, what is that like for you then, having gone through it, having those days that are tough? Because I think a lot of us, when we're out hunting, we could say, man, my dog just blew that one off. We could have had an awesome day, but my dog just had an off day. And then sometimes you have a great day and you're like, what is going on with you? So when you have those days in front of judges, people, I mean, you've got to be intimidated. You got to leave with your head hanging. How do you pick it back up?
So again, that's a good reason why the judges always have to continue to test dogs, because they need to have that feeling of, it's stressful, and things may not go up. We have to, no matter what happens, we still have to judge every dog per the standards. But on those days, sure, we deal with some situations sometimes where people are frustrated. They're frustrated maybe at themselves. They're frustrated at their dog. They're frustrated at a lot of things, and what the people that have been around in Navhda a while, I say a while, maybe 3, 4, 5 years or more, that have maybe tested a dog past the puppy stage, the natural ability stage, which is the first test level. Understand, I learn more from my failures than my successes. If something didn't go right, if I was going into a test and I'm like, man, I feel so confident right now, my dog is going to tear up the field. She's going to go and retrieve those ducks. And it's been going so well. And then all of a sudden, like you said, something comes up where you're like, wow, I've never seen her do that before. Or the situation unfolded, right, that I never put her in that training scenario. We didn't train for something. Over time, as people stay involved in this organization, if you're able to self-reflect a little bit, you look back and say, I got to learn from that. And if I learn and I apply it and do well, I'm just going to make myself a better hunter. I'm going to make my dog a better hunter. And then the next dog that I have, I'm going to learn from those mistakes. And I'm just going to, as time goes on, I'm going to enjoy my hunting time more and more as the years go on. That makes
total sense. And I have to imagine that there's people that you become friends with that you're walking out there, they're watching your dog. Yeah, they're giving them a grade, a score, but you could probably say, gosh, that's a struggle that I've worked on with her, but we just haven't gotten through that. And you might get advice right there in the field from somebody that's gone through it too and says, I got through that and here's what I did. So the mentor role can come in a lot of different ways, but just advice from somebody out there with you. I don't think I can get my dog. I don't think she qualifies for Navhda because she's a mixed breed, right?
Yes. I think that's the short hair you mentioned earlier, right?
She's I don't know if you know Tyler Webster, but he's a North Dakota bird hunter. Yep. And I got one of his dogs, but I've hunted with both of his, the mom and dad from Daisy, my dog, and they're just both rock stars. And so is this girl when she decides to hunt with me and not for herself. But anyway, that's a different story. She's, but yeah, I talked to, I think it was Ron Bayham a couple years ago when I first got her. He said, yeah, she doesn't qualify. You can't enter her into it. Although she's very versatile. She obviously loves hunting upland birds, but I've taken her duck hunting before. She loves retrieving and she loves the water. So for me as a hunter, even though I can't enter her into Navhda, I think she would do pretty well. I really do.
Yeah. And, for sure. I mean, like I said, Navhda recognizes, specific breeds that are purebred dogs. I'll tell you, my personal view is I enjoy, if you and I hunted together and I saw your dog do some great things and made you happy as a hunter and made your day, that's why we do this, right? We do it because, we want to have a great time. Sure, I'm a diehard Navhda guy and I believe in the Navhda programs and as I said, why the registry and the information. I believe that as a whole has been extremely beneficial for the versatile breeds over the years. But at its core, I mean, we all like to go and have fun. We all like to rib our buddies a little bit about their dog, or maybe they missed a shot, and we remember that stuff. I mean, those are some of the best memories we've had, and I'm sure you have those. With your mixed breed short hair, and that's not a bad thing.
Oh, absolutely. And that's as far as the journey, the hunting journey. Yes, we'll remember some of those great shots that we made in the field, but I get ripped on. A lot of my stories are getting thrown off a horse and, stuff like that, the things that don't go as planned. And that's the stuff you remember. And my dog, the first hunt in the Badlands of North Dakota, running 1.3 miles until the GPS lost her signal. And I had to go find her in the bottom of a canyon, that wasn't what I wanted at all. But boy, I sure remember everything about it. So those moments, the memories, it's all part of it. Well, we can wrap this up. I've got plenty more questions, but we'll just wrap it up. Do you have any stories from a Navhda trial event, a test that stand out to you? Well, maybe it was just a total failure that just stays with you to this day.
I can't say that. I know that I have failed in certain areas. My first dog, there's one area called the duck search. That took me a little bit to get her through that. I actually ended up testing my first short hair. It took me 4 times re-entering, over a course of about 2 to 3 years to get a prize won with her. And again, I reflect back on that and have learned from that. And the duck search now is one of my favorite things to train dogs for, including my setter. I'll tell a little bit of a story about my wife, and she's probably not going to like it when I tell it.
Perfect. Yes.
But
the good stuff.
I met my wife she showed up at my Navhda chapter, and that's how we met. And
cool.
And she had her poodle pointer puppy there. Excuse me. No, she didn't at the time. She showed up on a Saturday. And usually what happens is handlers that show up on a Saturday, new people, they might be looking, if they're going to run on Sunday, they might want to kind of check out the grounds. So I thought that's what she was doing. I thought she might be somebody that was running, and I got talking with her, and turned out she had a poodle pointer puppy, and we kind of hit it off, obviously. And, I helped her a little bit, training. I had access to birds and that sort of thing. Of course, that developed into a wonderful relationship that we have today. But she's extremely passionate about the success of the things that she's involved with, whether it was sports as she was a kid or, this particular dog. So this is her first pointing breed. She had labs and she grew up with English setters, but this was her first versatile breed. So again, that nervousness about I need to put myself in a situation where I want to be successful, but things may not go. There's certain things that like I just got to let the dog do it, right? It's out of my control. And her dog didn't do well in her first Navhda test on pointing. She didn't get that prize one, max score. I remember her always telling a story like she pointed that first bird, and boy, was she pretty when she pointed that first bird. And it was, 150 yards out. But after that, it was a bird bonanza of takeouts after that. So it was all about that first point. It was, but boy, did she give a first good point. And everybody oohed and awed that watched it. But hey, you know what? That's not the testing system is, you know what? You got to be, if a dog is taking out birds, that's not going to give the hunter an opportunity to shoot that bird. And that's what we're out here for. So she was so angry because she knew her dog could do it that, and, of course I'm dealing with, trying to tempt, I'm in the middle of all this, right? Trying to she's mad. She's really mad. So,
and you also think she's cute too. So this is a conflict of interest for sure.
Absolutely. So now, mind you, of course, I was not judging. We actually have
that helps. Yeah, that helps.
Yeah, I was just an observer. I was just a helper for the day, and it's actually a rule that you can't judge your spouse or significant other or somebody in your household, which is a good thing in Navhda for a variety of reasons.
That should be required in every organization or
yes, it's been the case for many, many years in Navhda, and it's a great thing. We'll just leave it at that. It doesn't unfold because people, I'm attached to that dog too, right? And I don't want to be impartial in my judgment. That's unfair to the dog and the testing system. So, unbeknownst to me, she immediately got on the Navhda website and started looking up other chapters and actually found a chapter in New Jersey, right? We're talking about how do you find tests? Well, she did all this, within a matter of days. And she tells me, we're going to New Jersey. We're retesting my dog. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to argue. Here we go. So we went down to New Jersey. And mind you, this is the puppy test, right? This is the young entry level test. We go down and she has a wonderful field run, points every bird beautiful. Like we worked on that a little bit in between going down to New Jersey. We had about a week or two to kind of work on some stuff with her. She does amazing in the swimming, not a problem. And she gets to the pheasant track. And the pheasant track, the NA puppy has to, focus on a pheasant that's run away. The dog doesn't see it and track that bird and show that it has that tracking instinct. Well, this was not her day for tracking. Mind you, at the previous test, she pulled off a great track. But today it was not going to happen on so we now, she got a prize 3 on that test because of the tracking. So now this, put yourself in my shoes right now, but we've tested in Maine. We went out of New Jersey, tested again. Now she's really mad. Right. So I'm driving.
Now I know why you've tested in Nebraska and Iowa.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm an extremely supportive husband. My wife will tell you that. And, we're on the drive home. I'm trying to say, look, this is a small window of this dog's life. The dog is, under, the dog at the time, I don't remember the age, but it was probably, about a year and a half old, somewhere in that time range. And you got so much life ahead of this dog, right? You're and this is a common story with a lot of Navhda handlers. They're so passionate about their dogs. They just want to see their dog successful. And so that was the only testing opportunity she could have for that dog. But what happened is, again, over time, right, you learn from that situation and you want to continue. You want to maybe work towards the more advanced tests like the utility preparatory test or the utility test. So my wife entered, fast forward 1 or 2 years, and my wife entered, the utility test and did extremely well, prize won, utility test, and qualified to go to the invitational a few years back. Went to the invitational, had a long training summer, and the dog is now past the invitational and is now a versatile champion. And one of the dogs, that we like right now, if I was to pick a dog that we have that we own, we own 4 dogs. If I'm going to pick a dog, particularly to go duck hunting, it's going to be her dog, because she's really well mannered in a duck blind. We can put her in a canoe, and she's, going to sit there and just give us a good time and some laughs. So there's that whole story you talk about, right? And of course, in that process, right, my wife Amanda, she met long life friends. She developed mentorships, just like most people do. Her and I, in that time frame, we got married, and we're both heavily involved in our chapter. So there's where, that story of like, man, it just didn't go well when this started, but guess what? We had a really happy ending with that dog.
Oh, that's an awesome story. I think that really sums up the community of bird dog owners and trainers, and just everything about the experience, the ups and downs, the highs and lows, the laughs, the fun, the trials and tribulations. It's fantastic. There's one last question that's been on my mind, and without looking at the database that you guys have, is there one breed that continuously rises or sits at the top or continuously scores at the highest? And then the opposite, is there a breed that continuously falls short of what people would want it to do?
I don't, that's more of a question for probably our director of testing, or even our woman, Lisa Pure, that handles our registry. I don't actually know what consistently is the dog that performs the highest on a percentage basis in the tests that they run. I will tell you though that there are more the top 3 or 4 breeds that always are tested and do consistently well in Navhda are the German Shorthair, the Poodle Pointer. The Poodle Pointer is actually fastly climbing and showing that performance in Navhda test. The German Wirehair and the Griffon, the Wirehair Pointing Griffon. Those are probably the top 4 that consistently do well. I've never tracked, and I don't think most people would want to know, man, we got this breed, and they just aren't cutting it.
Just doofuses out there.
Right. But I'm going to tell you, if you looked at that data now, right, maybe some of those breeds that are not as common, and fast forward 15, 20 years from now, I would almost guarantee you that you would see that breed and their test scores increase and get better and get better and get better over time. And that's really,
why is that though?
It's because of the whole Navhda system, right? That you as you test more dogs, you see their scores. Responsible breeders look at those scores and they pair their dogs together. That I will tell you. There's a couple of those breeds that I've even seen in my time, and even going back, that you can tell, like, those dogs that were tested 20, 30 years back. The German Shorthair was not what it is today, 20, 30 years ago, as far as success. I will tell you, some of the most pleasant dogs that I see now, and some people would be surprised at that, is actually the Spinoni Italiano. So the Spinoni is one of those dogs that I look at, and there's been a lot of dedicated breeders in the world of the Spinoni that have enhanced that breed. I talk to other judges and they say, every Spinoni that I see now, holy cow, that's a good running dog. And 30 years ago, you probably heard a different story about that dog, and that's part of the development and improvement that Navhda fosters over a long range of time. So it's again, I go back to the core mission. It's all about improving the breeds. It's all about improving the breeds, so we as hunters can have awesome days in the field with friends and family, and remember our dogs when they're gone,
Yeah, absolutely. Andy, appreciate you taking the time today, and obviously all the volunteer hours that you've spent with Navhda and helping other people with their dogs, especially your wife's. Good for you. Well done. Well done.
Yep.
I wish you a very successful season. Someday I'm making it up to the Northeast, and maybe
Yeah.
I'll be so lucky to walk the woods with you and one or two or three or four of your dogs. That would be a true honor.
Absolutely. Let me know. It should be a lot of fun.
All right, sounds good. And again, if you have questions, topics, guests you want us to interview, continue to send them my way. I hear from several of you every week. It means a lot. And again, next week we are going to we're bringing the band back together, I guess we'll call it. And we're kicking off a brand new season. The television show's back. Hunting season is just around the corner. Plenty to get excited about. And if you want to find a Navhda chapter near you, just go to navhda.org, NAVHDA.org. Andy, once again, thank you for your time. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Flush Podcast. I'm Travis Frank, reminding you to take the time to introduce someone new to the field.